Welcome to the final session of week 4. In this session, we will finish the week on crafts by exploring crafts produced in the colonial period. We will focus on the privatization of craft manufactures and the commodification of imperial crafts. The hands-on craft manufactory was established in October 1908 with a donation of 60,000 won from the royal family to promote commercial profits through the production of traditional Joseon art items, including royal goods, and affordable sales to meet general demand. In January 1909, 4 founding members of the manufactory each contributed 10,000 won to begin full-scale operations. The factory was located near Gwanghamun and used the building of the former Yeongseonsa, a department responsible for civil engineering projects, as well as the construction and repair of buildings affiliated with the royal family. The manufactory started off with a 3-department system, with the dyeing department, metalworking department, and woodworking department. Hands-on craft manufactory gradually expanded its operational structure and product range. By February 1910, the ink production department was established, and plans were made for the creation of the ceramics department in 1911 and the stoneworking department before 1913. At the beginning of its establishment, not only did it teach the production techniques for various fields, but also the basic methods for drawing the designs needed for production. In this regard, the facility can be considered as an early form of a craft education institution. Additionally, the artists who worked and received training here later became part of the pioneering group of modern craftsmen who led the modern craft industry. The factory set up a modern production system with machinery such as looms and presses, and introduced patterns for mass production, laying the foundation for modern craft making. The hands-on craft manufactory was significant as a modern art production facility aimed at creating and commercially selling traditional Joseon art. The establishment of the hands-on craft manufactory reflected the royal family's desire to realize the era's goals of modernization and national strength through industrial development and economic growth. As a modern production facility that adopted Western production methods such as machinery and design patterns, the hands-on craft manufactory mass-produced art and craft items that combined artistry with commercial value, thus marking a transitional period in modern industry and driving the industrialization of crafts. However, shortly after its establishment, the factory faced challenges, including misappropriation of funds, and was later taken on by colonial authorities. The factory was renamed the Iwangjik Craft Manufactory, and then the Joseon Craft Manufactory. While the hands-on craft manufactory essentially operated through private commissions, the subsequent Iwangjik Craft Manufactory became part of the royal household. Despite these changes, the manufactory failed to sustain continuous growth and was dissolved in 1936. In June 1913, the hands-on craft manufactory was suddenly taken over by the Royal Household Department, also known as Iwanga. And in 1915, the factory building was built as a traditional Joseon-style structure in preparation for the Joseon Industrial Exhibition to commemorate the 5th anniversary of annexation. Moving away from custom production based on private commissions, the factory installed permanent display cases, registered the Iwanmun pattern as a trademark, and began active commercial promotion through tourist brochures and newspapers, generating significant profits. The Iwangjik Craft Manufactory, which operated until August 1922, implemented detailed work processes and commercial strategies, and was led by Japanese technicians and experts. During the period of the Iwangjik Craft Manufactory, Japanese involvement in its operations led to an expansion of the production facilities into 11 specialized departments. However, the factory's focus shifted, and it began mass-producing items with designs influenced by Chinese traditional patterns reflecting Japanese tastes. The goldsmithing department was the most conservative in terms of design and form, largely because many of its pieces were created for the royal family. However, under Japanese rule, Even the more traditional works were influenced by commercial pressures. Replicas of ancient items were modified to reflect the Japanese interpretation of Korean art history. Lacquerware inlaid with mother of pearl was adapted to suit Japanese daily needs, and many pottery items were designed to cater to Japanese tastes, particularly their appreciation for tea. Consequently, an analysis of surviving artifacts reveals that the products from this era were primarily intended to attract Japanese tourists rather than reviving traditional Korean arts and crafts. Although the manufactory claimed to continue and promote tradition, a genuine sense of Korean tradition and a continuity of the history of craft making is largely missing, except for a few early pieces made for the royal family. Despite some success in garnering consumers, due to a mixture of insufficient revenue, inefficient operations, and the decision of the government general to sell off the manufactory, the Iwangji craft manufactory was completely privatized. In August 1922, the Iwangji craft manufactory was transformed into the Joseon Craft Manufactory by the Japanese capitalist Tomita Kisaku. He declared that he would continue the legacy of the Iwangji Craft Manufactory using the Iwamun trademark, but aggressively pursue commercial interests after the manufacturer was renamed as the Joseon Craft Manufactory. The factory concentrated on producing souvenirs, trophies, and other commercial goods. During this period, the manufactory began to market itself through newspaper advertisements and various fairs. It seems that the manufacturer recognized its sales and financial shortcomings and attempted to secure its future through privatization. Conversely, the notion of privatization likely attracted Japanese investors who saw the opportunity to gain from its potential profits. The newly established craft section of the annual Joseon Art Exhibition that was hosted by the government general further contributed to the distortion of craft development, aligning with Japanese exotic tastes and undermining the authentic progression of Korean crafts. The Joseon Craft Manufactory faced setbacks due to the global economic depression of the late 1920s and the financial outflow after Tomita's death in 1930, leading to its official dissolution in July 1936. The craft manufactories hold significance as it represented an effort by the imperial family to preserve and sustain traditional craftsmanship during a period of upheaval. Despite the challenges faced by artisans trained under the Japanese rule in mastering traditional techniques accurately, it was through their work that the continuity of traditional craft was maintained. Kim Jin-gap, Lee Ha-geun, and Jang Ki-myung, among others, can be considered the first generation of craftsmen who emerged from the Iwangji craft manufactory, transitioning from being unknown artisans to being recognized as modern craftsmen. However, while some artisans made a name for themselves or became entrepreneurs, the majority were reduced to technicians or laborers operating machinery with the introduction of mass production systems. Since mass-produced goods were created in large quantities through machine operations, the realm of art was largely excluded, leading to the disappearance of artisans' influence and the production of items of lower quality. The Joseon Art Exhibition allowed some craft makers to forge a new identity as artists rather than technicians. From its 11th iteration in 1932, the crafts division was newly established, leading to the emergence of modern craft artists. As crafts were formally incorporated into visual arts, this marked a transitional period for their professional activities. The concept of crafts as a distinct category of modern art was solidified, causing a separation from industrial mass production methods and the distinction of craft activities from industry. The trends in Sanjang Craft Division's exhibitions were loosely categorized into traditional styles that preserved the forms and patterns of the Joseon era, transitional styles influenced by Western crafts, and those that catered to Japanese tastes. The annual exhibition presented artisans with an excellent opportunity to escape the previous low social status in Joseon and gain new social positions as creative artists. In week 4, we've looked at some traditional crafts and craft making in the Joseon period, focused on the relationships between crafts and women. some design trends of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, crafts of the Korean Empire, crafts produced for foreign demand, and the eventual privatization of the imperial craft manufactory and the resulting impact on crafts in the colonial period. Next week, let's move on to the topic of Western art and the westernization of art in Korea at the turn of the 20th century.